Welcome back. Kevin McCullough welcoming you to That Kevin Show. And as we are want to do, later this hour, we will have yet another selection from our New Music Spotlight artist this week. CityAlight is their name. That may be a new name for you, but in the last hour, you heard their compilation with Kristen Getty in a song originally written by the Gettys called In Christ Alone. And ladies and gentlemen, speaking of the Gettys, put your hands together and welcome Keith Getty. Hello, sir. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. Happy New Year, Kevin. Very jealous that you're in Times Square and we're in all these other little, parochial joints, but great to see you.
Well, when you were here for Christmas, I believe there was a conversation about you bringing your bride back in January or February of this year, and we're going to do dinner and see a show. So let's get on top of that.
Well, 20 years ago, Valentine's Day this year, I proposed to the woman of my dreams in New York. Took her to Tiffany's, and then we went to One Is by Land, Two Is by Sea, the French restaurant in Greenwich Village. We just walked around New York, walked to the museums, had the greatest day, and so we're going to probably try and relive that a little bit.
And beyond that, she actually said yes, which was the best surprise of all.
I think that's the whole thing. I think that's the thing that still surprises a lot of people. But. That's the thing about advice to marrying up. Only 50% of people can do it,
Yeah. Well, and most of us have. So there you go. Well, it's good to see you, friend. Thanks for being back. For people that are not familiar, if you're listening by way of radio or watching by way of television, Keith and Kristen are probably the most prominent hymn writers on the planet. You may not even know what a hymn is, but if you are part of the church in some sort of classic sense, you understand that hymns were songs that were sung all the way through the history of the church, and they are continuing that discipline and practice even to this day. Keith, on average, how many hymns do you and Kristen hope to write in a given 12-month period?
I mean, you write all the time. You usually start 100 ideas about a year on average, about 100 ideas that you begin to think these are really good. We usually end up recording half a dozen. And what we found over the years is 2 or 3 of them become popular. I think we're about to hit our 100th CCLI Top 2000 songs.
Oh, wow.
So, which sounds good, except when you've been doing it for 24 years, that means, okay, it's good, but it's only maybe 4 years. So it's a lot of hard work.
And I want to ask about that because, I'm going to drop the curtain a little bit, let people see into the machination. But you write a song, you may write it as a solo artist work that you put on your album as an artist. But then there's these other layers of how that song becomes popular. And let's deal with your most widely well-known song called In Christ Alone. That was originally released, I don't know how many albums back, as just a performance that you and Kristen did, but it has since gone on to become one of the most well-recognized songs on the entire globe. Choral arrangements, there's rock band arrangements, there's all kinds of things in between. And what is it that makes a hymn kind of transform from that simple kind of solo performance to be something that all of a sudden everyone around the world is singing?
Well, it's it's funny. In Christ Alone was the first song we released, and so it's been it's been one of those great blessings in life, but also a little bit of a false dawn because you can't really repeat that. I was in a golf match 2 days ago, and one of the guys who knew the song said it's kind of like going to Augusta and getting a hole-in-one in the first time you play.
They won't quite beat that.
Yeah. So, but the Lord opened doors, and because of that, the Lord opened doors to introduce them wider. And we felt it was so important because the Bible itself is 20% poetry and songs. God has made us from the beginning of the world in Genesis to the end of the world in Revelation. God has made us people who worship Him and get to know Him and get to know ourselves and our communities better, partly by what we sing. And that's why throughout history, if you want to know the spiritual temperature of a people, you look at what they sing. And we were, of course, back in 2000, just deeply concerned about the spiritual temperature of where the church, certainly in the West, was going in Britain and America by the songs that they were singing. And that's not just churches that have got theology that's dubious or just absent. That's even in conservative churches or in Bible strong teaching churches. What was being sung did not mirror what was being preached. And I'm not saying it was wrong. I'm just saying it didn't mirror the sense of priority, the sense of depth, the sense of reverence, the sense of true understanding of ourselves just was completely absent.
As much as I've been around music artists in the secular and Christian arena, and having some music background myself with some experience in performance and other things, the idea that where we were headed in 2000 was maybe a little bit dangerous is certainly something that was resonating, I would say, in the church community. On the lay level, especially. I mean, and I'm not here to single out a single song, but there is a phrase called the sloppy wet kiss effect, in which that phrase was used in a specific song that I think a lot of people went, wait a second, where's the greatness of God and the goodness of his truth in such description? And again, I'm not drawing a judgment about that song. I'm just saying you guys have, since that time, you've tacked strategically towards something very different, and you probably had no idea that it was going to go where it went, did you?
Well, no, and we couldn't have had. I mean, it really was the kindness of the Lord. I recorded with Stuart Townend, who I still feel to this day was much more talented than I am, and but it just opened doors to work with confessional churches, parents and grandparents around the world who were concerned about what was being sung, and now, of course, our organization represents 14 writers. There are 14 of us trying to do this. And I think, candidly, a lot of the others do it better than I do. But it is certainly a privilege to get to work
Last
together.
week, we had on the show featured a secular independent artist by the name of Ruthie Kraft. And I asked her about her songwriting kind of discipline. Does she wait for inspiration, or does she write consistently? Because she's left the job of doing other things to be a musician full time, and there's a certain amount of all in that she's having to throw that she's never known before because of other financial safety nets, et cetera. And she said the best thing she ever did was get into a writer's group where she's held accountable, and every week she's given a thought and she's told she has to write a song, and the group that she's part of every single week, they're all engaging in that practice. Is it inspiration? Is it discipline? The musician and the songwriter can't really always answer that question, can they?
Yeah, no, it's all of the above, and that's and I mean, my brother-in-law makes movies, and I was talking to him yesterday saying, I'm just sort of frustrated that my first week back, I haven't, worked harder as a songwriter. And he reminded me that every creative does things differently.
Yep. So
if you take, how you do marriage, how you do learning, how we, every writer is different. In fact, I can even look at my career and go, I actually had 4 different phases. I had a phase that I wrote with Stuart Townend, where I was the apprentice. Then I had a phase that Kristen and I and Stuart worked together, where she really brought this fresh energy to what we were doing. Then we came to Nashville, and as the industry was beginning to take notice of what we did, other people began to bring their flavors to what we did. And then the 4th phase, I was a writer-publisher, where I was working with a team of people. And each of those phases have brought new people.
We're talking with Keith Getty, hymn writer, and some big news this last week. We're going to tell you about all of that and some plans for 2024. Stay in.
Ready or not, we'll be right back.